Right.
If it's canceled, then it doesn't count. It's only, we have to hit a 10% point.
Mhm.
At the 10% point, then the class is paid for. And so,
Will you explain that, Dr. Wood?
yeah, it's 10% of the total enrollment time.
Okay,
And so if students drop out before that 10%, they don't count.
okay.
And
How many students do you have to have to make a class, and what do y'all look for?
well, we like to have 10,
Okay,
but, we'll, mostly do with 8. And if we need to, we'll do with less.
what would y'all do if y'all started a program that was like highly specialized, like maybe like nursing? And your nursing instructor like left midway through the program, you have kids and I'm sorry, I'm getting into the weeds here, but I'm just curious about this.
Yeah.
You have kids that are, 3/4 of the way through the program, but they're not gonna be able to graduate from Mayland due to the fact that,
We bring in adjuncts to finish it. No, we never had that trouble. Yeah, and so you always have people who come in, and frankly, our nursing program is very well staffed.
I'm just saying, just in any program, I just use
Yeah.
that as an example.
But you bring in adjuncts.
What would you do if you couldn't find somebody, like it was, like, I was on something that's really specialized that community college would offer, nothing's coming to mind, but what would they do with those students?
Well, I mean, at worst case, you could tie into another college and just commit it to Zoom.
Okay,
Yeah, so that would be a worst case. But, and then their financial aid with their Pell and everything else is based upon those dates as well. So if a student drops before a certain period of time, then they owe back the money that they may have received for Pell, which if they've already got it, it's good luck on that. And so, we have to do enrollment just for that purpose, to make sure that people are there. But the workforce programs used to be seated, it was based on seat time, but we switched that over to being, or it used to be clock time, and now we switched it over to be the 10% rule. So once they hit the 10%, because the prisons particularly were killing us when it was seat time, because if they left to go get medication for 15 minutes, we had to deduct 15 minutes. Yeah, and so that didn't work well. So we got it switched over. But I've already said that on that fire class this fall, they have one that we're going to teach. So there's classes that you just have to, in new programs, you'll do less, and you have to rely on more. But, some programs just cost a lot of money. Nursing is one of those that typically will cost $300 to $400 or more thousand than what we bring in. But, you need to have nurses.
I don't have any concern about nursing, I just use that as an
Yeah,
example.
No, but nursing is one of those.
What I was thinking is if you brought on a new program, you started a new program, you might have trouble,
Mhm.
Getting those students to commit. And then what if they took several courses and then the professor left, like what would they do with this?
Yeah, so we just have to bring somebody in and bring them
I
that.
have no concerns about nursing.
But most of our programs, we have that included in there. But at worst case, we can work out a deal with another college and commit them over to Zoom. All of our classes have set up now, so where there's a Zoom component. So if we have a snow day, instead of canceling school, we can just switch over to a remote day.
The gentleman that you hired for the fire classes, the fire association seems to be very happy with
Yeah.
him because they've done one class already that I know of. And they may have done more, I don't know, but they've all bragged on him.
He was already connected, and that's what we were looking for, because that's, as you know, that's a very internal group. And so to try to bring somebody in, but that's an outsider, would have been difficult.
How much interest have you had in that fire one to?
Well, the school originally said they had about 18 people interested. Then that went down to what, Jeff, when we met with them?
There's a whole lot.
Yeah, and so we'll see.
I know your instructor went up and met with them. I
Yeah.
wasn't for sure.
The thing is, with the school having to have it set up now for 3-year graduation, programs like this will keep kids in the high school. And other programs like that. And so, we'll work with the superintendents and do other types of programs as well that will help keep them in. We want them to finish their 4 years. That way we get funding, they get funding. Cause you lose a year's worth of funding on these kids. It's already, I'm sure you just heard from the school district, it's already tight. And so, I'm not sure where that came from on the 3 year. Who knows? It was the senator, one of the senators pushed it and everybody supported it. Not everybody, but enough.
I'll just have one more question. So our EDC director is obviously a Mayland Community College employee, we all know that. So when the EDC board reimburses Mayland for his salary, is that going back into the institutional funds?
Goes back in institutional. And, so he's not paid out of state funds. He's paid out of that institutional pot. So it's basically a reimbursement of the funds that were paid. So it's not intermixed with any other funds.
So is that a contract that he has to sign for you guys a year?
We did an MOU with the EDC. And, so it wasn't set up as a yearly thing. I think it's just set up until the EDC wants to do something different. We're fine either way.
That's taken care of, you know.
Yeah,
you're
no,
fine.
we're good either way, but it's an ongoing thing, so EDC would have to opt out,
Mhm.
if for that to happen. And, so, but none of it's commingled with any other funds. And, when he puts in for vacation, it's already approved by the EDC chair. And so we just sign off on it.
Any more questions? Well, Dr. Boyd, I appreciate you coming to
Well,
us.
thank you, appreciate y'all, and, I know it's a tough scenario to go through on budgets, but I appreciate your efforts that you're able to do. And so, thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Want all the neat stuff you do.
Try.
You do good.
Take care.
Thank you. Yeah, take care.
Sorry, I wanted to see them.
It's okay, we got allergies. Okay, we're back on. Now everybody's gonna accuse us that this happened to come
Yeah,
up
we
with
are.
that. Well, we got
I guess whoever wants to hear.
6:30 is when Toe River.
Nathan, are you out there? Come
All
in here.
right.
Okay, you wanna come on in?
He might
You
not
wanna
have a
sit right here?
finance person.
All right, I've got,
Or if he's ready.
Bryna's coming, she's got a copy of the budget for everybody and the slide deck, but she should be here in just a little bit. How are y'all doing tonight?
Good.
You know, good.
Hey,
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
While we've got some time to kill, Mason, Jeff's gonna ask you to talk to us about something, is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
We talked about this, I'm not gonna put you on the spot,
But he is.
you know, and we talked about it, with the Board of Education a little bit and talked to this board. That's where we have talked and possibly the health department and the school system working together to serve both agencies.
Yes.
Do you wanna And I didn't elaborate a whole lot on it. Because I didn't wanna say something that was wrong or.
Yeah, we would be glad to help with that. Yes, we talked about maybe having a nurse staff in one of the schools different days of the week. That might create a burden on the health department with just the regular clientele that comes through. So I don't know if that would be optimal, but we would certainly be agreeable to if you had students that had injuries or something like that, or they were just sick, you could send them our way. And most likely we could work them in throughout the day. Some days we're quite staffed, but we do carry a little time that we can try to work people in. So for the most part, we could probably see most everybody that came through. There might be the occasional time that we would have to postpone or schedule something in another day, but for the most part, I think that we could see them as needed, depending on volume, depending on what volume.
A lot of times it's, my experience, and Clay can speak to this too, a lot of times the kids just got a bump and needs to be checked out to make sure.
Yeah, that should be no problem. That should be no problem.
There's some health plans with kids that are diabetic and, have allergies and
Yeah,
maybe epileptic, but there's not a large volume of those.
yeah, we talked to our head nurse, Wendy, and, Samantha, and they were both agreeable.
Is there any paperwork that's liability stuff y'all have to do to initiate that?
They'll probably have like a client intake form or something like that, that we could have them fill out.
Like being minors and parents consent and stuff like that, would that have any?
Yes, there'd be some.
So we might put a packet together at the beginning of the school year for the kid to opt in if they wanted to do it or something like that.
Yeah, we would have to talk further about trying to preload it to where it makes it easier
Okay.
coming in, because there'd certainly be, so we have that with our cross-normal children in Avery County. We've got to have some kind of sign off from a guardian,
Are you talking about Williams Academy or across the board?
the orphanage. Because we went through, making sure that we had the correct consent waivers for them. That was hard to navigate. We was actually the guardian. That took us a while to figure out. But yeah, we could front load it and figure out a way, if we wanted to do that, how it could make it easier for the school and for us. I think that'd be fairly straightforward to do.
I said, how many employees do you have now?
I always say 34, but that's not right. We have probably would be better at this, 32.
Are you fully staffed?
Almost. Our clinic side, VSET is fully staffed. We probably have a couple more hires on environmental side. We've got 2 part-time employees up in Avery that are over 65. So we're trying very hard to get some new employees in, because they will not be with us forever. So,
What's septic permits looking like? I always try to gauge the growth from the county whenever.
I thought it dropped off, but it hasn't. It's still we still have healthy demand, which kind of surprises me with the interest rate environment. Typically, you'll see, well, I think when I've talked to Philip in the past from the tax office, you see a bit of a lag.
Yeah,
So, it's still robust right now, which is good. It comes in peaks and valleys, right? So I'm expecting a valley, but we'll see. Been wrong before, I've been wrong again.
So we project and then all of a sudden we go back and it's like, well.
I think last year, or maybe it was the year before, I can't remember, but there was something in your budget that was higher than what normal. Was it the phones? Did that come down?
I think that was maybe a year ago, they had the phone stuff, I think that was, they had to do some IT.
We had a lot of IT issues, huge IT overages.
But I didn't see that being high this go around.
No, what we've tried to do is put everything into a kind of a replacement plan. And, we've got part of that IT.
You
Come on
can-
in, Ronnie, you're fine. We tried to put that in a replacement plan to where we don't get hit with lump sum, big ticket items. We've got an aging fleet that we're gonna have to replace. So once that gets replaced, we'll look into putting more of a replacement plan together.
Your fleet still mainly Subarus, is that what y'all have
I'm gonna
done?
call through
That you have a big budget for head gaskets. Well, fair.
We had a tail light out the other day, I don't know.
Which one?
That our new one?
We've got a list of things wrong with us.
Yep, I feel your pain.
I might have.
Well, this is lost.
Hopefully we have enough of it for everybody. Yeah, keep on with the questions.
Are you feeling settled in over there now? You got your feet under you and
Well, I told Lane Russell, I used to work for Lane Russell 20 years ago, in Cherokee County, and she's the health director at, Transylvania County now. Or I used to work in Cherokee County 20 years ago, but she's in Transylvania now. I told her, I said, it's like walking around in the room with the lights off sometimes, you're trying to figure out what's going on. But, you do see the same things occurring. You're asking, it's getting better. I'm figuring out how to navigate it. It was extraordinarily complex to jump into. And, but I think we're navigating it fairly well. I know my resources and I utilize them quite a lot.
it's a very pleasant side on this side.
Oh, well, good.
I don't think there's anything but problems and stuff about you guys.
Well, we try very hard. There's some problems we try to remediate those problems. It's been enjoyable. I've enjoyed it. I've lost a lot of sleep now. I told my wife I'm turning gray. Well, hair is still there. It's 30 years.
Everything great, and so sad.
I know, I've always had the greatest, there's just more. And I didn't have it in my head hair, but now I've got some gray in my head hair.
To be fair, I didn't, before I was commissioner, I didn't have red hair either, and I've been plucking them out left and right, so.
And I didn't have to wear glasses, but now I have to wear glasses to see something close up.
So is your budget reduction, is it due to revenue, is it due to cuts? I was looking through. What's is it a combination of both or?
It's a combination. What we did, we had a retirement as a finance officer. Brian Heaton's our new interim finance officer. And when you go from one finance officer to the next, it's always a little bit complicated. What we did, we went 3 years back, try to see what we had, look at each line item. And there have been reductions in some places, overages in others, over the past year. There's advantages of being a member of the district. You get to share employees when we have employees that may leave together at one time. We can help cover that from one county to the next. There's also financial advantages. Part of those financial advantages, so we have that home health funds, and we sold those. And over the past year, we've tried very hard to move those funds into better interest serving accounts, and we've done quite well with that. So we think some of the reduction comes from we're pulling interest off of our idle funds. We've been very good about using some of our addendum agreement monies. We're a member, as the local health department, we're a member of Region 2 in the state. So we get our own addendum agreement funds that come directly to Toe River Health District. But Region 2 also gets a small pot. And we've tried to be very good about taking more than our fair share of that pot. And environmental health's done well. So, and we've also seen 15% more people come through Mitchell County and 60% in Avery County through our clinics. So I think it's a combination of all of that. I think it's a combination of
My
that.
understanding is that Yancey is pretty regretful in their decision to
to pull out and that, they would love to come back and I don't think the board is too excited to see that, come together. So, you know,
Oh,
I
I
think it's
enjoy
great.
hearing that.
I think it's, I think it's just great what y'all done without, I mean, to me, it shows, it's a whole different experience, what we've seen in the past. I mean, I don't know, I'm just sitting here, I was talking to Jeff, we were looking back through some of these years of fundings and I mean, there was reasons that, the things happened back when it did the way it did and it's nice nice to see things coming around.
We've got some wonderful employees and, our Mitchell County, campus has got I think it is very well staffed right now with some very good employees. So I hope to continue to see good improvements at that location. I didn't know, that's good to hear. I hope they regret it. That's my goal is to make them regret
Well, I
that.
think that's what I've heard that from a couple of different sources, so.
It should have stayed. It's too hard. They lost too many pieces on the puck. We were
To your
very lucky.
point, you got an advantage because you work across the, 3 county districts, you can use employees to help and
You can't.
make up some deficit you got.
It is much more complex to run a district, from that standpoint. But there's some very good advantages. That we were still left with a lot of good tenured employees and programs. So we were able to restaff and train. We've got a lot of money spent in training, to keep that education base. But they lost a tremendous amount of seasoned people, and I don't know how you would rebuild that.
Yeah.
So they're at
Yeah,
a
tough spot.
supreme disadvantage. But we're always here. Make them pay to buy in if they want to come back.
I like this guy.
Was there anything specific you wanted to share in your budget with us?
Oh, yeah, well, I'll give you my spiel. My name's Mason Gardner. If I introduce myself, my name's Mason Gardner. I'm the interim health director for Toe River Health District. This is Brianna Heaton. She's our interim finance officer. I would like to thank you for inviting us to come here. And we'd also like to thank you for being members of the district. We talked a little bit about the advantages. I think there are only advantages for the county, being members of the health district. It is cheaper to go in to satisfy those mandated services. So you get quite the deal as a member of the district. We talked a little bit about idle funds. As the Toe River Health District, we do have some idle funds, so we do share those with our members of the district. We've tried very hard to put those in better interest. If you get higher interest on those accounts with the environment that we have, and we've done quite well. I'll let you know what those are. This is the slide deck that will go with our budget this year. And what it does is it details on our line items, anything that's over 10% higher than last year, we've detailed it over here so you can see a more robust picture of what's kind of going on. But in the back of that slide deck, last year, and we had a really good year last year to answer that other question. We had a very good year. I don't think we made like $497,000. It was a very good year. That's not linear, so that's not gonna happen every year. It'll probably bump. We would hope that it continues in the upward progression. But we have $1,386,805.40 that are available to Mitchell County as a member of our district. And those, should you choose not to fund us 100%, which we always encourage you to do so, those funds are available to help offset some of that. All years aren't great years. Some years, rain comes, right? You have rainy days and sometimes things don't go as well and those funds may need to be utilized, but that's what they're there for. Our goal is to utilize them, to grow them, to keep them around. In this year's budget, we've asked for, it's a little bit more than 10% less than we asked for last year. We've had an increase in clients come through our clinic, and with our projections, we think that we can run it with less than what we asked for last year. So that's always good.
In 6 years on this board, I don't know that anybody's ever come in here and asked for less. I mean, maybe am I right or wrong? Have you?
Not to that amount, not 10% less.
I mean, that's awesome.
Well, it could be
I know
kids, right?
You're on top, it's her reason, right? It's you driving this bus, right?
Well,
That's awesome.
I'll tell you what I think about that, is I think it buys like trust with the board, it's like, if we can trust you to be honest about your budget, we can also trust you to be honest when you need something too. So, there's some trust that you buy with that reduction.
Well, we try, this is projection. What we're doing is projecting from our next year's needs. We could miss that projection, but this is what we think we can do it with. So, you always hear in government, you never ask for, you always spend your money and you always ask for more than you did last year, right? But I don't think that's quite true. I think you should kind of call it like you see it, and I always say with the board, see if I know something, something, I'm just gonna tell it straight to you, because that's how I'd like to have it. But it equated to like $88,150 reduction from last year. So we're pleased with that.
Brianna, I apologize. I'm terrible with names. I now have it written down over here, so I will never forget it. But I will from here on out call you Jane, since I've called you that. I apologize.
Brian,
Brian. Brian. See, now I mispronounced it when I did try to pronounce it right.
What's your finance background, Brian?
I have an accounting degree from UNC Asheville.
Okay, good school choice, huh? I like that school.
I've been at Deer River for 16 years.
Okay.
Hey, really?
You called her Jane this whole time?
Yeah, I just called her, I know, I don't know, have you been here before? You've never been to this meeting?
No, I just said, no,
Yeah, no,
you.
this is my first time.
Danny before Brian.
I just didn't know if you
NCAA.
could call her.
No,
When did you graduate from NCAA?
2005.
It's 2000, we was in school at the same time, yeah. I don't remember, but I was 2007, yeah.
And I will say, that I've been on this Tower River board. She's very quiet. Steve, it's the first time I've ever seen her chuckle and laugh since I've been on the board, since you called her Jane. Now from here on out, I can call you Jane.
I apologize.
But I'll be glad to go through all this. I'll do it just like we did with the finance committee, on the board if you'd like to. Just whatever suits y'all.
Y'all got the data there, if you got any questions, one of them I have. Here we go. Contracted services, there's, what, I see Avery's 186 and, Mitchell's 243, what's the difference there?
If one of those, you get one more school nurse, from Mitchell County than Avery County does. I have to make my slide deck. I know one of the school nurses is one of those. It's mostly those. School nurse. I couldn't tell you exactly what the difference is on those between the counties. When we had to transition from our last finance officer to this,
That's what I said.
sometimes those ARPA funds got dropped in a bucket. And this is one of those, they got dropped in a bucket.
So that looks like the
Trying to
county
figure out
paying
where
for
they-
the school nurse to the health department, even though it's not going to. the
State is,
The state, the rest of the funds.
Okay,
this is state funding for the
Got it,
school.
okay.
And you'll look
Yeah.
at,
so it's going to do that side. Okay.
It's just pass-through funds from the state.
you'll
We
look
get
at this
awarded that.
front page right here, in the brown. It'll show you revenues and expenses, so state revenues, $150,000, that's a school nurse. You come on down below and see expenses, contracted services, $150,000, so that's just a pass through
It's just pass-through.
for us. Now, I'm gonna let Clay, go ahead. we talked about school nurses
Mhm.
working with the health department. So it looks like that if the county chose to, and we've saved $88,000 this year, we could provide a nurse that would be designated as a school nurse through the health department.
For the health department.
Yeah, for the health department would use that as a school nurse. Does that make any sense, Mason?
Oh, I'm not following.
Are you talking about like a school nurse to go out into the schools and not just to be at the office?
Yeah,
Let's see.
let's say we're saying, okay, we want to fund another school nurse.
Mhm.
Instead of running it through the school system, we run it through y'all. And it would be money. Now, in saying that, that nurse could go to those two new schools, or the new school and the upper school. When school's out, you got another full-time nurse at your facility.
Somebody sends it.
Two or 3 months. Would that be legal? If you want to do that, would you?
I think it would be legal.
Well, explain how we got school nurses through you from the state versus other counties that don't. How did that come about anyway?
I don't know how it came about,
Okay.
but it was before my time. I believe
Okay.
what it is, at the state level, they fund some of those school nurses. So they'll fund 3 at Mitchell and 2 at Avery. And it must have something to do with populations of the children or how many are coming through. And I don't know if it fully funds their school positions, but I know it does supplement. So they'll give us $50,000 that funnels through the health department, and we pass those through to the school system. So I don't know if it fully funds a school nurse, but it's supplemental to Mitchell County school system or to the government. So I don't know if you could fully fund one for $50,000. Love to have another provider, I'd love to have another
When I
nurse.
was on the board of education, this came through, can't remember it being funneled through the health district or
Mhm.
through the health department. But now it was $75,000. We had 2 nurses, which was 150, and that paid for, that was salary and benefits.
Salary benefits.
So there's no cost to the school system.
I'd be curious. I start asking some questions where it comes from or how to get another one. To see how that trickles down. If you know what the requirements are, to see if you could get another one. I'd be glad to ask those questions.
Like I said, he wasn't curious here at the house, if the health department, the school neither, then the nurse goes to the school, instead of being stationed at the school.
Yeah, I would.
They quit driving roads and they run the roads.
Yeah, they're so close by, they're a little bit more, I think I need.
How does that mean you would station one in each elementary school and have one
At the health department.
centrally located to bounce?
Yep.
I mean, we do that now. If we use a nurse, we call these.
I'm gonna ask the question, where the money comes from, and how to get another one.
I'd like to know myself.
I would be curious.
Right, we have these school nurses to the time.
Mason, you said there's 3?
I moved 3.
3.5,
Oh, yeah.
3.5 through the school system.
No, one of the half staff.
And the state is funding, well, there's pass-through money, I think, for only 2.
Is it 2? I would put down 3, but it might be 2.
I think it's 2, and then the school system funds 1.5 nurses.
I'll ask the question and I'll get back up with Jeff.
Cindy is that.
Okay, she's a Dayton, right?
I'm not sure.
She's a Dayton, and the nurse that brings.
Yes, I'm gonna say it is.
Which is interesting.
Yes.
Mason, how quick do you think you can get an answer on that? By Monday?
By when?
Monday?
Oh, I doubt it. Give me a week or 2. I'll
10
give
days.
Jeff, how many?
10 days, 10 business days.
What you're trying to do is get an answer before the budget has to be
Gotcha.
finalized.
We have a SAM account, we have a federal SAM account that funnels funds from the federal government to the state. It took me 2 months to get ours activated and the error removed. It's been a nightmare. It got removed today. But I will find out as quick as I can, and I will let Jeff know.
But we don't have to vote on it, basically to the third, so we can go back and change.
Still say
Is that
10
not
days.
correct?
Everything's
We
on
don't
there.
vote on it tomorrow.
You got the June 25th for it. That's the vote.
I'll find out
10
as
days.
quick as I can.
Well, we'd like to know the presentation.
Yeah.
We not the presentation.
It's accurate to the,
We don't want to be accused of this.
that's true, yeah, backdoor deal, little dark night.
Yeah, that's all.
Anybody got any additional
I'm gonna
questions?
brag on your presentation. This is very transparent and very easy to follow, as far as labeling everything out. I really do appreciate that. Cause the budget can be very complicated. It's very, very easy to follow.
Thank you.
Ryan, did you need that spreadsheet, that PowerPoint?
No, we're,
Well, you have to update that.
I figured she probably filled the data in, but, we're working on siding on your place and windows, so I think you
Yeah.
have windows inside, you will have a nice looking building.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you very much. Cause it needed it.
Yes, yeah.
And the inside needs an update. We run every new employee through that district office. And, it needs an update.
I'll have fascia, soffit, windows, siding on the outside, so maybe we can focus on the inside more.
Oh, that would be great.
Mason, I know at one point you guys were gonna do remodel on the inside for like safety precautions. Did you guys do that?
We did most of that. It took a long time to get some contractors to help with some doors, so we're still working on some of that. Door fixing. We've got a guy that's working us up a estimate on moving the door, because it may or may not be load bearing. I think that's the last
Okay.
thing that we have to do construction on inside.
I'm glad you guys did that.
And there should be some funds available for that.
Anybody else got any questions for me?
I just want to comment if nobody's got a question. You know, I sit on this board and have since I've been a commissioner. And, Mason has come in, hit the ground running, and made this thing very transparent. And has really united the employees. He'll take no credit for any of this. He'll tell you that it was everybody in the building, and I'm sure it was everybody in the building, but leadership starts at the top. And, y'all don't remember this, because you may not have got the phone calls. I'm looking at the county manager, so me and him got some phone calls when we didn't have any environmental help. People in Mitchell County, we was having to beg and borrow from Avery. They were very gracious when their people could come down here. Think you got hired 2 from Mitchell County full-time and another one is in training, correct?
We've got overall staff, we've got, we have Ellen, we've got Peyton, we have Area. There are our newest interns. We have Anthony that's in CIT currently this week. And we have, Lee and Allen up in Avery. So I kept them together in Mitchell County. The pay sources come through from Avery and Mitchell, but I kept them together so they'll kind of bond, get to know each other, enjoy working with each other. And at some point we will move them where they go, but, Ellen will stay in Mitchell. I may move Peyton to Avery just because Peyton's from Mitchell County. I worked in the county that I was from and all my family was from. That can be hard sometimes. You're telling people that you're related to no, and that's tough. So I'd like to keep Peyton. So probably put them up in Avery County, but, we'll make sure that everybody's covered, both of our counties.
Yeah, welcome more.
Thanks.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. I can give him the time sheet, but he's doing a good job.
I coached youth football for a long time, doing good kids.
Thank you.
But, to end that, thank you, guys. We're in so much better shape than we were a couple of years ago. With the health department, I mean. And the district is very strong. The health department's very strong right now. They're doing good things. And he said 15% increase in patient volume, which is huge. And then, hand us this budget, and he saved us 11% on the budget. So it's, I don't know, the state of Clayton one said that when's the last time you've had a budget request? And they request $88,000 less than what they asked for last year.
We're trying. We've got some very good employees. It's not me, it is them. That's for sure.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you for being members of our district.
We just worked the second one.
Not as nervous, still nervous. I'm telling my wife, I said, I don't eat before these things. I don't eat.
I'll tell you something. Something I gotta tell old Mason is, you know, one time we went out to eat together, me and Mason's going around. And, I started laying out options to eat. He said, I probably not wanna eat there. And then I got thinking, I said, well, he's inspected all these places. I'm never gonna order. But you know, sometimes, you pick the place.
It was the big one.
What's your favorite restaurant?
Yeah.
You know what I'm Foxton Creek does an excellent job, and I've had them cater a couple of our Board of Health meals.
I have been up there for breakfast a couple of times.
I've not been there since.
You should go. They do a wonderful job. It's the only meal that we've catered in for Board of Health, and everything's got. They do a very good job. There's some other ones I would recommend in Mitchell County. But I'm gonna ask DP, but they were probably, they had an employee. Everybody's gone from vacation, but, they do a good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I will get you an answer as soon as I can on that school nurse. In that, no pressure. All right, thank you all again.
Thank you.
So, Dad, Steve texted me, John Henry, and said, in answer to y'all's question, statute 115C518A says the proceeds from the sale of any real property in Paris and Deaton shall be applied to reduce the county's bonded indebtedness for the school administrative unit or for capital outlay purposes. So that would be the answer
Oh,
to Jeff's question.
I can you follow up and
Bonded and paid.
We don't have any.
That's if we were taking out a loan and.
you
So
can
that-
go, so, yeah. And it's not gonna be
Like her account, right?
No.
For student.
But
Or just
if
account.
we're responsible for capital.
So,
All right, guys, next one up is stormwater. So, Mavis, do you have anything to say about that? It's pretty cut and dry.
Oh, no other was about what, 7% increase, it's just, yeah. And I'm sure that was just to cover the increase that we all had this year in retirement and insurance. So it was 2.19% increase, and as you all know, we co-pay this with the state, they pay a larger percentage and then we pay a smaller percentage. The nurse or the secretary is ours, but we cost share the other positions, so.
And I'll just say the value they're bringing to the projects we do, anything that's near the creeks, anything that's environmental related, they're bringing tons of resources and, I bet they'll bring grant money in to far exceed this.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
Mark, the district technician?
Or
Yeah.
She's also helping Alan navigate whenever we decide for that, to apply for that tobacco trust grant. He's helping Alan.
grant walk stuff too.
Then they hired that girl from DT's, as the assistant up there. She's for DT's there, so. I don't know what her name is.
That one, we probably pay all the funds on if that's the.
Except for $3,600, the state provides $3,600 a year, we pay it on the secretaries. Mitchell County EDC.
Same dollars in there.
We actually reduced it. They have a really healthy fund balance. So I talked to Chair Chuck Vines and, talked to Jeff on the board. Talked a little bit in the last board meeting with EDC saying, you know, if you have a project that looks like it needs some capital outlay, you can come to the board and ask. Cause you kind of are paying forward too by knowing that 120,000 we get them sustains them and it ain't draining their fund balance. So we're gonna sustain them a little bit, and then if they need more money, we'll let them ask, and they're cool with that.
Does that have any questions on that?
And that's gonna be paid for out of Article 44.
Yeah.
US Forest Service.
You were saying using the rest of that Article 44 towards mailing, right?
We'll talk about that once we go through these. We need to figure out for sure what you want to do there. US Forest Service is 2.8% increase again. I'm sure it's just cost of living, which is actually below,
Do you know if they've hired anybody for, actually posting?
Josh Miller.
Josh, yes.
Not yet.
And not hired yet.
and again, we cost share this with the state. So it's not 100% us. And if the state passes a budget with less, our proportion amount goes down as well. In other words, if they don't spend it, or the state doesn't fund it to whatever degree they're asking for, then ours will come in less. And I've never known a year since I've been here that theirs comes in, not, it always is less for some reason. I don't know. Mitchell County Animal Rescue. Theirs is down 5,000 from last year, but actually it's up a little bit in operational. But they're not asking for any capital this year. Last year we helped them with their HVAC system. This year they're not asking for that.
One of her asked when she met with me, and it's not nothing this board has to consider. But in the future, you know, if we partner up with Avery County and do a 2-county animal shelter. I talked to Philip Barrier about maybe doing a cost share on an animal control officer to cover both counties. So that's a future, maybe a year or two out when that new shelter's built, and we get everything kind of rolling between the 2 counties. And we have to update the MOU with animal shelter too, so I'll put that on the commission agenda at some point in the near future.
Something, yeah, that one. We don't have any ordinances against like nuisance animals, right? Oh,
What
really?
if it's vicious dog or?
Yeah, dangerous.
We do have a dangerous dog ordinance,
Okay.
yes. That's like if, your dog goes off your property and bites someone, that falls under the
But it has
dangerous
to,
dog.
it has to bite someone.
Yeah, so there has been some
No, I just-
discussion
we
about
just
tightening
talked
up
about
our dangerous dog ordinance. There has been some discussion between the sheriff and, county attorney, myself. So there could be some movement on that, just to tighten it up, make it more in line with other counties, other rural counties of like type.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So if we did a joint animal officer, is that just one position with the sheriff's office?
So we can run them two ways according to Amber. You
Because
can
it-
run it under the animal shelter,
Okay,
and there's two ways, because I asked her that same question. Good
because I'm
question.
sitting here thinking you've got two sheriffs.
It would be, we probably would run that under the, if some models show that it's run under the animal shelter group, other models are under the sheriff's. So, if we did it under the sheriff, we'd probably have to just, let one be under it and then fund the other half to where that person's understood to be sworn into both the sheriffs and both counties.
Oh, that.
Oh, yeah, that would be a potential there.
You know, what you do is it's like with the Yancey County, the transfer station. You've got to have a home county that's responsible, so probably depending on where that property is it in Avery County? Or Yancey?
It's right on, Avery, yeah, technically just over into Avery, so all the grants
So-
run through it.
It would probably need to be an employee under the Avery County Sheriff, and then what they do is whatever that expense is per month, we're gonna pay half of it, just like we pay half to run the transfer station with Yancey County. It's gonna, you can't really have an employee in two different counties, so they would hire that person, and they would be employed under that sheriff's department, and then they would just bill us for half of the
But
salary
they
benefits
wouldn't have
monthly.
investigative powers in Mitchell County,
I don't know about that.
because they would have to be sworn inside Mitchell County as an officer, I would think.
See, that's different, I don't know.
We'd have to study that, because it seemed like we could maybe
Yeah.
run that under the animal shelter
I think
side.
you'd do better if you could do that.
And they can swear in under that, I think is what Amber will say, she will prefer that.
Yeah.
Because if they each did one county each, and we had two,
Yeah.
now that's easy
That's
enough,
what easy.
but.
I could just see the whole state, it'd been problematic if you've got two losses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that'll be a down the road discussion.
Okay, sorry.
But again, it could be an added cost down the road, because once you start that, that's will be
In the
cost
budget.
you're going to have to incur every year.
Just another thing, I know there's some statutory old commission meeting requirements as the existing animal shelter in Mitchell County. So, I've noted with Amber that if she was gonna use that as an animal boarding place to board animals, but I think she found out that there was something blocking that, and she was exploring the sale of that. So we need to, Taylor, maybe you bring up some of them old, commission meetings to see what the hooks were on that
Yeah,
property.
because that was funded originally from a referendum that the county did. That was a vote of the public.
So we gotta watch that.
So we will have to look into that.
And they receive a special appropriation yearly due to, with that.
Right,
referendum.
exactly. We're statutorily obligated. But if we do the joint one, maybe that obligation's gonna go to that one as long as, I don't know.
We probably need to, if,
I don't know.
we're gonna need to run the county attorney maybe to get us out of that one, put us in the new one to some terms. But anyway, keep that on y'all's radar. We'll have to remind each other.
Got myself in that.
We'll have to figure out how that works.
For the people in the room that don't know, I think this might be a good question, what are we obligated to pay for? Can you talk about that a little bit, so anybody that's on live stream or in the room that doesn't know, like, as far as services?
Okay.
We're ahead of schedule right now.
Yeah, so Mavis can chime into this, and there's, anybody in this
I
room
think
can.
we just said what we don't.
But you're
Yeah.
obligated to provide like fire services,
The essential services
essential.
basically are outlaid to take EMS. I think counties provides that by statute. Fire is provided through fire contracts, but the property tax supports the fire, their share of that. We have the schools, we are required only for the capital needs of the school. So, while, there's all these needs you see, the ones we're required by statute is to make sure this middle school gets built. If the middle school doesn't get built with the existing funds, then at the end of the day, the county will pay out what's remaining. That's why we've been trying to run numbers in to see if we're on budget, off budget, or whatever. So the capital needs, for example, if a school is in disrepair, that's on the county. There's a list of capital needs. And it's quite inclusive, and I can get that, but capital needs first and foremost, the state typically, as Chad said, would pay for the teachers in most instances. There's a few things like lunchroom workers that might fall into capital things,
Not capital, what, being after
operating.
capital is operating, right?
operating.
And it's the same thing that Dr. Boyd talked about with Mainland, their operating money goes to more like their utilities and things that the state does not pay for. For example, some lunchroom staff and, maintenance,
Mhm.
things like that. So it's more like the operation of the plant, of the building, of the facility, right? So you are obligated to give them operational money, just like you give Mainland operational money.
Yeah, so then we got the health department, of course, you just saw general statutes requiring certain health services to be available to the citizens. Of course, one of the big things that takes our funding is, DSS, adult protective services, child services. So, as far as if you were to look at our budget for,
Public
Lee
safety is your largest.
and Dale back there, they're gonna look at that big old pie chart and they're gonna see DSS taking a big slice of it. Sheriff's Department taking a big slice of it.
In schools.
Schools will
That's your
take the
big
big,
one.
that's the big three right there typically. What else? Well, we got Board of Elections, we got Ag Extension, we're cost sharing with, those are, there's some statute that kind of navigate us, but some of the payouts are optional on that. Those are cooperative.
If you look at it this way, look at what we're not obligated to fund. Everything that's in our budget, we either cost share with the state or federal government, or we're obligated to provide it because it's public safety, falls under the public safety arena. The only thing that I can think of, and we've researched this one time that's in our budget that we're not obligated to pay for is recreation. That is actually an elective. There, as far as I know, there's no state statute that says you have to provide recreation. So that's the one,
It's easier than the other ones, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're the other way.
Yeah, there's little
I don't
statutes,
think
yeah,
you're gonna
they're the-
find anything in our
what's
budget
not,
that
what it
you're
is.
not required to pay. There's no opt-outs on anything except property recreation. Okay, the next one was the libraries, if you want to keep going. Does anybody have any questions about the library request? Again, theirs is just a little over 2% increase in operating, and that's due to,
This will have an open position at the Bakersfield Library,
Yes, they do.
I see, sorry. How long's it been vacant?
Less than a month.
Yeah.
Actually, Josh hasn't been on long.
Interviews and things are coming up here pretty quickly, actually.
Okay.
I'm on that interview committee.
I mean, they're busy.
I got the chest one. Oh, that's not it.
so I think that's all for,
Did you
outside
say
agents.
Fest Club?
Chest club. Yeah, my kid does chest club.
So I guess what I need from you is,
I have a recap listed, this, all the things that we need to decide before our next meeting.
we need to, if you want to make decisions on outside agencies, up until you get, I mean, I'm sure you probably don't feel comfortable yet doing the school, but other agencies, is there any hesitation on any of those? I thought they were very reasonable this year. I mean, probably the most reasonable I've ever seen.
Most of them fell within CPI, which,
Well below.
yeah, and below.
Yeah.
I think they're reasonable. I guess my only hesitation is, you know, I know all those outside agencies are making tough decisions with their budgets, but we also have 130 employees that all have budgets too. And we're not giving them, in this pass, we're not giving them any consideration to their budgets. So I have some heartburn about taking care of people that we are not directly responsible for, like we are employees.
Are you proposing to put a CPI in there, and if so,
Well, the CPI would, in fact, would, looks like it would break the bank at where we're at now, so. No, I have a question more for certain. Awesome. I mean,
Well, I think part of it's going, you know, this is just the first pass, and then we can, I mean, I think the biggest piece to this puzzle is the school funding and how we're going to fund that and at what level. I think if you know, that's one that I think you have some flexibility strategically, trying to figure out what their needs really are that you can afford.
Well, you know, I'm sitting here looking at, capital and the funding general, so they're over $4 million. As we currently sit. 2,604,941, capital's 1,497,037, so $4 million. They've asked for an additional 970,000, we're getting close to $5 million.
I mean, obviously, that's not sustainable long term.
But it's not, and you know, we can't. If we're gonna find $970,000, I hate to put it this way, we might as well be running the school system. Because we're funding it, other than federal, state money, bottom line, and, guys, I know there's a lot of needs out there. It's gonna be a tough call. But, Steve had asked a question about number of employees at schools. And, you know, got the answer, he, you know, rounded every one of them off at 30. That's 90 employees. We got 102 employees going to new schools, so that they've added at least 12 new employees going to the new school. If we had 9, and it's less than that, because take 6 off of that, Steve has 24. So they're basically adding 18 new positions, because Chad said they were funded, the new schools would have 102. And the numbers are about 86. Subtract 102 from 86, we should come up with 16 or 18. But I mean, we can't, it's gonna be impossible to fund all their requests, and there's a lot of needs, but, to do that, citizens in Mitchell County, their taxes will go up 2.5, 3 cents. I want everybody to understand that. So if we make this full request, and I don't think this commission board is gonna agree to do that, the citizens' taxes are going up. And then this appropriation will be good from here on out. I'm not correct, figure that goes into, what was it, no, this operation?
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't call that into operational, but I mean, I do think we need to look at the operational because you sure don't want to lose money from low wealth.
No, I think we need to increase operational.
I think-
We stay in there.
And I think what, and
Or
I
maybe a
didn't
little
bring
bit more.
I didn't bring the email in here, but I think basically, and I think it's gonna be on the agenda Monday night, is we need to go ahead and approve an additional 23,000 and some change for this year's operational funding. We can do a budget amendment and we can give them that extra 23 if that will help them on the low wealth. But going forward, even if we add 23 to next year, which I have, is that gonna be enough? Or do you need to, do we need to look at putting another 50,000 on there just to cover the deficit? Because I'm afraid from the calculation and the rolling 4 or 5 years that they use, if we were short for 21, then obviously we're gonna be short for 22 and 23. So in my opinion, I think we need to be a little more aggressive and give them a little more extra on operation, because
And I agree with that.
you're not gonna be able to go backwards on that low wealth money. I think that's
That's
not.
pretty well in stone, it sounds like.
Mhm.
I agree with you, I think that's probably the right.
And unfortunately, when you do a revow, you don't know what that's gonna affect or how it's gonna affect all these different calculations. When you go cost share with state and federal government, those formulas, you can't always predict what they're gonna be. So unfortunately, we didn't know if that was gonna happen with the schools.
And those formulas got so many variables in them.
Yeah.
Like if you look at that
Population.
spreadsheet we sent,
Yeah,
you can see it reads in, about 10 demographics on a scale. Of if you're
even
looking
tells
scale,
the
your
minimum
value scale.
income and everything.
Yeah,
So-
it's running so many things. We could put 50,000 in there and let's say 200 new jobs comes in via Sabelco or Quartz. That's median $80,000 a year. You still might be putting more in because now
Don't know.
our median income went up.
And
So,
we're gonna have a rebound in a couple more years,
Yeah,
so that's gonna
rebound.
change it again. And every time you change the property tax rate, it changes the formula. So again, you've held the operation money the same for numerous years now.
Makes sense though.
I think it's time personally that we increase that, and you know that that's
Reoccurring.
on and on and on forever, amen.
Davis, would it be possible to see, would it be a tremendous amount of work to see a budget that showed like 1.5% CPI increase for employees and then 1.5% increase for all the agencies that ask for money? So not to meet any of their full needs, but just to see what it would look like if we
Okay,
give them the same percentage we give our employees.
you're looking at 1.5%.
Yeah, because I know a lot of our agencies ask for 2, some of them ask for 13. And I know some of it, and I wouldn't count the Article 44, and if we're funding like maybe not Article 44, I guess that's irrelevant, but
Yeah.
Most of them are over.
I'd like to see 1.5% for across the board, whatever.
Most of them.
If that ain't a, thing, some of the
But
medicine I work with.
it's been changed.
I'd like to see what that left us in our contingency.
And the budget you presented is a balanced budget. There's no making out of that.
But remember, we set aside an extra cent for,
You're not setting aside the extra cent, which is basically $227,000. We're not budgeting that this year.
there's $37,000 left out of that.
Right.
I'd just like to see what 1.5% was.
That's all it's left over, 37,680.
Yeah.
The budget we're proposing is a decrease from, it was what,
Right.
20 something million, 25 million, to 20.
Yeah, it's just about $500 million.
But some of that's due, like, that was pass-through money, right?
Yeah,
So this first pass, this is, the Board of Education funding was based on what we funded last year, right? No increase, this is what we, which was an amount of 407,
118.
118.
But out of that 407, we need to decide what you want to bring their operational up to first. I pulled the 23,000 and some change out already and put with that, which brought it up to 2.196 or whatever. But what do we think? I don't know that I mean, it would be a swag guess, but we don't know what they're gonna ask for next year to keep the low wealth money. But I think it would behoove us to go ahead and get in front of the 8 ball and put a little bit more money in there. So we don't run into this year after year after year.
I would support that.
I think that if you looked at, just the trending where we haven't really increased it since 2015 or so, it needs an increase. It needs a decent increase to kind of help the metric build out the benefits of that,
And,
not that recurring money. That's what they're looking at.
and oftentimes there's this talk of like per pupil spending, and it doesn't take into effect what we're giving in special
That's
appropriation.
because it's not recurring,
And
they
this-
don't put it in
And
there.
this formula doesn't take
Yeah,
in.
So, I mean, I like that, they're kind of transitioning that.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Needs to
money,
be transitioned.
so they know what their budget's dealing with, like, so they know, like, this is what happened.
So in a perfect
This is a brick
world,
wall, this is where you're gonna, this is where you're gonna run out of funding at.
And I probably won't be here when the one-to-one technology contract comes up again. When did we do that? 2020?
well, last year,
Last year.
Yeah, just done one.
about this time, like,
Well, we do them for 4 years and usually they come in 3 years and want to up them, renew early. But something you need to think on, if you're on the board when the next one comes on, and I'm not, nobody's here remembers this, I'm gonna say this out loud. That one-to-one technology money, there are other sources and other parts of money that can come from, and not from your general tax dollars. So you need to look at those other pots of money. There's the capital sales tax money. There's, can't pay for it out of longer. I think the best pot of money is the sales. I was thinking of another pot, but I think the capital sales tax money would be the best.
Because they're considered capital.
Right.
yeah.
And technology is not something that you can spend out of lottery money, so that wouldn't be a good option. But I do think that's a better use of your money, and you can free up your tax dollars to put into operation and not be spending it on IT. Anytime you've got a funding source that will pay for a specific thing, I would use it versus tax dollars. That's just my opinion. Because you've tied up $272,000 for how many years now? 7 or 8 years?
Maybe 10.
I don't remember how long it's been, but. So in the future, I would think about how I structured that funding if it were me.
Now, I like moving forward in the future too. I know I won't be here, but one of the things that I've thought about over the course of, I guess, the last couple of months I think all the budget requests need to happen at budget time, like we don't need to be during the middle of the year entertaining. Unless it was an absolute emergency, we don't need to be entertaining budget requests during the middle of the
Yeah.
fiscal year.
Unfortunately, you have a lot of funding that does not come down to some of these departments until the state does pass their budget. And in some cases, it's when the federal government passes their budget. So you're always gonna have some funding changes. Not necessarily new funding requests, but you have a lot of funding changes. It's just like the Medicaid expansion came down mid-year. A lot of these programs come down after we pass our budget. The other issue you have is a lot of grants that you apply for in the spring, for some reason, they're all like due between like February and May for the most part. You don't know about those fundings until after your budget's already been passed. So there are times that you're gonna have changes, Brendan. But I understand what you're saying, and don't come in the middle of the year and ask for something that you knew about at budget time and you just didn't tell us.
I think anything you can put off and say, hey, we'll discuss that at budget time,
Mhm.
that's a good course of action. Then you know all your requests, like, at the same time,
Right.
prioritize.
Okay, so give me what you think you want to put in operation for the school then. What's the number that we want? So when I rework this pass, what's the number we want to look at?
23,000, what
That was the first number that we said we had to have.
This year, we
We
have to
think
have
that
that
next
number.
year, I talked to Chad seemed to think next year would be about 30 to 40,000.
We just double it right now.
So if you just went ahead and took it right now and popped it up to 50 grand, that should cover you. Now, if, we find out that that's, running low, then we might have to look at that. The equation has so many variables.
You can always move up, but you can't ever move back down.
What I was looking at was 250, so going to 2,250,000, that's an additional, that's 77,557 over where we're at this year. But that, in my mind, that's a person, that's a full-time employee that you're, basically, that they can use. It gives them, they could.
Give them another person.
If they wanna fund cafeteria, if they wanna fund, that's on me,
Social worker.
whatever.
So 2,250,000. Okay. Got it.
$2,172,640. Why would you think even number? That's what I was thinking.
You can
It's a
see,
good even number.
That's amazing.
I mean, y'all think it makes sense? I mean,
I think.
you're,
But against Steve,
I agree with you.
I'm just saying, so I'm saying we were gonna give them the 20, how much was it? 3,000 or whatever, which that takes us from 172, 172, 2,172,000 to 2,196,000. Just take that off the table, because I don't want nobody to say that, well, y'all had to give us that money, and we're giving you an additional so we're saying we give you 250, which is 77,000 over your current operational budget,
so you increase it to $70,000.
77,000, which is a full-time.
$77,378 is the exact
The
number.
only thing I don't like about it is it ties
It's the
these
next
guys,
5 years.
yeah, so you.
Oh, it's
It ties everybody,
But
ties your grandkids.
but my thing is with it, again, it's a full-time employee, I mean, well, I look at, that's a fully funded employee, one employee, or multiple people, however you wanna do it, and we've not done anything, we've not moved that number. That number's been 172,000,
It's about 2015.
I mean, we've not touched that number in almost 10 years. And, I mean, you know what costs have went up,
Reasonable.
your president tells us.
I mean, I think you're gonna have to raise it.
Exactly, I don't know, I might get the woodfish out, we'll break it, come back.
Think about those up
My
there.
president, I was agreeing with you.
I'm sorry.
Get you on that nail with you.
But I do think in another year or 2 years, you're gonna have to be there anyway to meet blood well.
I do think that.
That's the trend.
I really do think you don't have any choice.
Can we do that and see what 1.5% looks like across the board?
And then do the 77,378. Now, what about the other operation, the other money? I've got 195,763 in there from Article 44 that's going to the school, just because that's the amount of Article 44 I have left after EDC and Malin. So what about the other money that we gave them last year? Can we zero that one out for now to run this next pass? In other words, give them the 2,250,000 and then give them the 195,763.
And drop the special appropriation?
Drop the special appropriation until we figure out the construction needed and where we are on the widening the road, because if we have to front them the $750,000, then when they get that money back from the state, once the road's built, then that gives them $750,000 to do whatever they want to do. So with the 750,000 and the 195 that we're giving them from Article 44,
Totally fine there.
that's gonna almost totally fund the 900 and some that they need. That's just one out of the box strategies that I've been trying to figure out how to fund them.
But will we be taking that $750,000 out of the fund balance, right?
Yes,
Yes.
This year.
but they don't have the money to do the line.
Either way, I think
I mean, I know we gotta pay for that, but I don't know if I wanna.
Until I,
$750,000.
me personally, until I hear accurate numbers on how the building project is going, I have actual numbers presented to this board and their board, and everybody's got all the same information at the same time. And we see if that school project's on budget, below budget, over budget.
I think, now, Alan, you may interpret it different, but from the conversations we've had, and we've had numerous ones, and with Tanner, I can tell you with confidence, the money I have left in the grant, and I'm gonna use round numbers, is like $8 million, okay? Out of the 40 million, we got like 8. We set aside $3,141 that we restricted from their capital sales tax. When we took the project over in December, okay? We had 2 pots of money that's in our control. And according to what we still owe Van Noy and what we still owe Code, which is the only 2 people I can pay out of those 2 pots of money, because that was the budget ordinance that we did. Okay, we have enough money to cover that, I feel like.
I agree with that.
And in fact, if it runs out,
The
and
resource.
Yeah.
All of them.
if it runs out and there's no credits at the end or nothing, I think we're within $100,000. We should have about 100,000 left,
I've got 2 questions.
okay?
Furniture for the new school.
Now, that's not in the scope of work, that's their responsibility.
Okay, second, okay, where's that money gonna come from?
And that's a question that you'll have to ask them Tuesday night. Now, we've asked numerous times, where is IT coming from and where is furniture?
I have that on our list, to ask my second question. Playground equipment, it's about $1 million.
It was paid from their other lottery fund.
So that's.
That's been taken care of, and they actually have about $300,000 left in that pot of money. Now, what they can use that money for, I can't tell you. I don't know if they could use it for furniture. I don't know. That's a Beth and Chad question.
Mhm.
However, the playground equipment was bought and paid for. Now,
Do you know how much the furniture's?
$750,000.
Maybe not about 800,000.
800, okay.
How do y'all, I'm just curious, how do y'all know that?
wait,
Am I not supposed to ask that? I'm
That's
sorry.
you can't ask how women know that. We just
Don't
know.
get that number, like you're like saying.
Rule number one.
It's like, there's no debate, like unison, 750,000.
I mean, for the,
So that's something they've got to figure out.
The county would be left with if they.
well, see, all of these are questions that I just want both boards to be, I just want a transparent representation for everybody moving forward.
We're wanting to close that deal out with the grant money, with the scope, with the audit. Those are the things that's what we're really, at the end of the day. We want a completed middle school, running clean on grant scopes and running clean on audit, and if possible, on budget, that's what the on budget part's got all these questions floating, that furniture, IT, contingencies, souls, there's money out there floating around this. There could be
There could be a credit at the end.
there could be a credit.
We're not gonna
Explain
know.
what that credit looks like for those who don't know. Some people think a credit at the end means they're gonna write you a check. Tell them exactly how that is. So we come in, let's say the school is at 39 million GMP, guaranteed maximum price, and they get 2 million back on souls, and let's say maybe
The cord right there.
700,000 back on contingency. So you got 2.7 that they came in under that GMP. Well, on the last bill,
As we close out.
instead of the, amount being that you owe 4 million on that last bill, you'll only owe 1 million at 3 minus 3 or whatever. But it's not gonna be like you get a check and a credit back. And so we have factored that in, and what we're seeing is, if you get those back, we'll be on budget. If we get those back if they haven't used, they're gonna use some of that soul, we think. They're gonna take 25% off of that contingency. So there could be some sales tax money left. We'll suck up all the grant money that Ralph
Grant money
allocated.
has to be used first.
So that'll all be gone.
And so then we'll be in the pot of the 3.1 capital sales tax money that we're holding. And so if they get a credit on the end, that could mean maybe they only use $1 million of that capital sales tax. Okay, so come September, hopefully, when we're ready to close this build out financially, because it'll take about 30 days after they get finished before we'll get the final bills. There could be some capital money left, which means once we close that out, that resolution or that ordinance that we did restricting that money will be released because it'll be paid for. So there could be, say, 2 million sitting in that pot of money that's not being used. They could come back to you and say, okay, we need money for furniture. Maybe they paid for it from another source and now they need to be repaid. Or maybe they need another capital need that they didn't cover. I don't
So
know.
maybe their athletic complex, so we'd have
Or
to take it out of the
maybe
budget
they-
ordinance.
Right,
So we'd have to get a move to move that out, since it was allocated and not used, we move it out of the budget ordinance is what made.
right. We would close that budget ordinance, that would release that restriction, and then they could come back and ask us for another capital need, and then you would reappropriate that money to that new need. If not, we just sit on it and hold it till they need it.
So,
But do we have any idea when the road widening project could even occur? I mean,
Summer.
does it got to happen?
but it has to happen, it's a 6-week project. I think they're waiting one final, approval from DOT, I think, at the last construction meeting. But as soon as they get that approval, everything's ready to roll. The discussion, it might be about the last week of May, last 2 weeks of May was when construction will begin.
Did they get them the red light? Did they?
There ain't no red light, there's the turn lanes, there's a single turn, there's gonna be there's gonna be like, if you're coming from the Spruce Pine side, they'll give you a dedicated turn lane. And then when you're coming from the Bakersfield side on the other end, there'll be a little widened spot out with a turn lane. So that's gotta have a red light at some point.
It seems like a good place for one, but.
And they're gonna, instead of a red light, they'll decrease the speed limit through there.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can see the sarcasm, but they'll, everybody will go, when they say 25, everybody will go 25, so
You'll wait longer to turn is what it'll be.
That'll be pretty chaotic.
So that's a question, Harley, I guess we need to find the answer to Tuesday night is number one. You can ask them about the things that were not in the scope of work that has to do with the bill. How are they paying for that? What's their plan? But it's not in anything that we've taken on. We took over the actual bill and the money that goes with that bill. And those two things was not in the scope of work or in the build project. Now, the second thing is, I think we need to talk about the road widening. At some point, they need, if they don't have the $750,000 to upfront that money, then we need an official request from them for that money to cover.
That needs to happen in May.
It needs to happen this month. It's all in the budget.
That $750,000 is gonna help their budget this year. I mean, 'cause it'll be what, next year when they get it back.
So,
Well, it'll help them in their upcoming budget.
So they would get it back in time to,
They'll get
We'll
it
get
back
it back.
probably if that road
September,
running gets
maybe.
done and they send their paperwork in, they should get it back by September, October. I mean, it's a process it's just like any other grant. You pay for it, you submit your paid receipts, and you get reimbursed. Except DOT wants it all at one time.
Will DOT bid that?
the noise didn't. So the noise, took over the bidding for that. And,
But there will be a bid process.
they do the 3 bids and they've already, I think, they did the final bids today, I think last Tuesday, they got their bid in place on it. I don't know what company will do it, but then they got DOT inspects it. So there's inspection fees that go out there, on that outlay of money, but it's done by a private contractor, DOT inspects it. It's one of those general statute things that it's not one to be performed by DOT since it's not on the step where it takes 10 years to finally get out there. So that's a workaround.
So it's already put, the wheels are in motion, so
Yes.
at the end of May, you don't have to put bids out and wait another 2 weeks.
No, the bids, I think, are out and accepted.
You're delayed, okay.
I was trying to think, I'll find out who got that bid, I'm sure it's out there now.
So on the internal departments, was there anything that caught anybody's eye? Any comments about anything you want changed there? Do you want to talk about things that were asked for that we didn't fund in case they get calls from department heads?
You know, we had a few more positions. I'll say this, when Mavis and I went through over the past month and a half, finance staff, Mavis, myself, we went to every department head and got budget requests and kind of interviewed the needs. And one of the lenses we were looking at things was projecting growth of the county. Because we know we're gonna be growing pretty rapidly. You know, we have a, rec center out here open 6 or 7 days, 6.5 days a week maybe. You're gonna be staffing that up. You've got, a little growth in ag extension. We have some, you know, over the past year, we've approved some positions that pre-COVID were not there, or post-COVID were not there. Pre-COVID, they were there, so we've got them back up to their staffing
Did they get
level.
them hired now?
They have got, they've got everybody kind of lined up. I think we got our NC State 4-H agent in the works. I think she will start, about June, July, something like that. So we got, we're getting fully staffed out there, and so that was one that's a little higher than what you're used to seeing.
I trust whatever you guys did.
We did lay off on a few of the positions and had hard discussion about them. But the department heads were, some of them we gave contracted labor to offset a little bit of the full-time labor, and we said, let's hold steady right here on our positions, because I see us going into more growth maybe a year out. So we were trying to hold that steady, hold those things down.
And the other thing, once we figure out Bowman, I think, and who's going there and what buildings we're gonna be able to vacate or not. I mean, I think staffing needs and changes may change. And what they say they need right now, once we get over, we may move them and they may have more support and not need, and I'm thinking about, for example, elections. They ask for another person part-time. But if we were moving them over to Bowman, if they were both gone to a conference that they have to attend to, their whole offices may not be closed. There may not be anybody staffing them, but there will be other people, maybe administration people or other people that could meet the public and say, okay, they're going to conference, what do you need? If we can't help you, they'll be back, or they can call you. I mean, it's not like they're gonna walk into a building that's empty, the doors are locked, and they don't, you know, they have to read a sign on the door. So, I mean, there are some
So
examples
that
that,
location change we may have.
May
an
help
exception
them.
point, or
yeah.
we may add some duties to
I
give
just
some
want to make sure we're
exception.
being sustainable
That's,
for not only
yeah.
this board, but future boards.
And that's what we looked at.
that was
is-
that was one of our hard looks, was trying to stay sustainable based on our revenues coming in.
Quick question on the demo of the old police department over here. Is that included, is that just an expense, a budget expense?
What do you mean, Darren?
So if we demo that existing police department,
The FEMA building.
the old,
Sheriff's office?
yeah, the sheriff's office. That's what I say. Did I
So
say
we
that?
haven't scheduled
I'm
that.
sorry, sheriff's, the
Take
sheriff's
this on
office.
the table right now.
If you all put that on instead, you have to vote to do it, but we
But I
not.
mean, what's the plan with that? We've not really talked about it, but I mean, you're getting ready to dump a rec center back over here.
It's gonna probably depend on if you find somewhere for transportation.
So
Oh, yeah, cause
You
it's.
got transportation, you got the tax.
a little bit of that, I'll tell you kind of how that would roll out. I could see tax office and sheriff's office being vacant buildings, because if the county administration moves to Bowman and does a one-stop kind of deal with, county admin, we put tax office in this building. So if an attorney comes in and they're transacting, they're all under one roof. Those two kind of are complementary, to each other. Of course, you'd leave EDC here with this EDC boardroom, and you'd leave TDA back there. But the suite down toward the end would now be tax office. So that's got two buildings empty there. The question that a board will need to decide is what do you do with those two vacant buildings? If the rec center in the field is running wide open, you might can tear those down. There's also grant money for expansion in the transportation. I don't know if having transportation there is the best fit. I think you got federal money to get a new transportation hub.
I think it's a bad
We
idea.
got bank property.
Yeah.
Traffic is a nightmare now. You know, I pulled in,
Parking's a
great
big
little
deal.
parking. So you have a board meeting here, you have a rec game going on down there. There's nowhere to park.
Well, we wouldn't be having a board meeting then because we'd be moved to Bowman by then, right?
Bowman, yeah.
Can we put transportation possibly in the other half of the sheriff department building at some point?
Well, actually,
You don't have.
I don't think they got enough bays for all their vehicles, and they got some federal requirements that they have to have some fencing around it. And so I don't think that lays out well to the fencing and the security and the bays for needed for work, because it's gonna be a ramp up situation.
We don't get the garage, do we, with the Bowman?
Now we carved that off.
We don't get it, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a potential depot, but
Maybe
Nothing
advice?
says that transportation has to be in.
if we found a piece of property that would make it where they got easy access on and off, and it's in the central easy way for them to access Spruce Pine and Bay. It could be Ledger, it could be Spruce Pine, it could be Bakersville, just wherever we found the property.
Well, don't throw anything at me. What about Dayton?
Well, I've been talking about some of those. There's a potential there for one of those to.
I mean, you're gonna have
They
one
have
more.
enough parking there to park all her vehicles there. I haven't been up there in a long time.
You'd have the capital.
You'd have to make changes.
They built this off, yeah. Maybe a big old burning.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that probably is something.
That's.
Wouldn't your
You'd have to
operational
make
cost of
changes.
building be?
You got the playground up above,
For,
that's got road access.
Like the
Oh, that's right, you do.
They have to operate all of these.
yeah, now, if you had that whole building right there, you would have some. You'd have to partner with something else in that building. You put half of it in transportation, and, because if you look at some of these other counties' transportation buildings, they got a lot of garage and maybe an office suite that accommodates what, a medium conference room and eight staff maybe.
You could potentially put transportation over at Bowman where the EC building's at, there's some space and there's some bays, some space for.
I saw that, that's a potential there.
Yeah, that might go
It's
there.
gonna depend on what you make over to Bowman, I think.
You're gonna have a ton of operational costs associated with Bowman, so.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, we need to.
Heating there, roofing.
If we, I know, I'll discuss this. And we've got separate buildings over there, and it's already set up for it. Could we work with Region D and possibly move childcare off the hill from the courthouse? Then use childcare building that's present there for overflow annex for courthouse staff such as maybe probation and parole, DA's office, or certain things like that, because, you know, I think we've all agreed that's not the healthiest place for a daycare thing. You got two come in for trial, it's pervert. Already been charged for it, you got kids out here playground playing.
I mean, I feel like you as a board's got things to consider there. Like, hey, kids.
It's just gonna depend on
Indians
what.
fan.
We can use
Yeah. You know, it's past y'all's bedtime.
It's getting close.
But I think it's just gonna depend on. Bowman.
Yeah, so I've got Bowman I did a little bit of a scope of work with everything, so I was looking in ag extension, really is kind of focusing in on the south building, which is by the Bowman football field, it's its own building. And I plan to move them out of the annex into that building pretty much ASAP. It's got more updated HVAC, it's just a lot better setup. So even without any grant funding, they're happy to go over to that. That's gonna just blend well to what they do. They got a football field out there for some sides of that. They got a commercial kitchen we can look at.
Their building's an ADA nightmare.
Yes, theirs is an ADA nightmare. They automatically meet ADA, so there's one. And
Can we
then,
stop right there though, 1 second too, and the thing that I think you'll have to look at down the road too is what you're gonna do with the annex building. So that
There
would
you
be a
go.
decision, when I was talking about disposing of some buildings, once we can.
Yes.
So that will be one building that once we can get them out of there.
Are they the, involved in the?
well, if I take ag out, I've got some office of the court folks that I can.
Jails and.
Yeah, Jada Ellis and,
Stacy.
Stacy, and,
And then there's just storage.
and then storage, ton of storage down there, we have to move.
But if you could,
Could you move that storage to the new sheriff's office for now and you open them?
Good, or it could go to Bowman, because we're gonna try to put 5 storage in Bowman. So there could be a classroom or so with some laid out where it's got real easy access and.
and those two
Anything to
offices
keep y'all from
would
having to carry those up and down those stairs.
be, those two offices would be trained to go over where elections was over in the old house.
Yeah.
Keep your court people, then we do one of those court houses. So it makes sense.
That was another one, I wanted to try to move elections, so there's about 15,000 in health and safety to get Bowman up to par, just 15 grand. If I do the needs assessment, it's about 1.5 million or so, which I put a request in the route, so, you know, I said, yeah, of course, the main ask, but if you went in and this gave us some that helps match grants, we would be happy. But if, you know, if we got some funding on that, we put new repaved parking lots, we really have to feel better, but so. Elections probably start moving in January. So NHM got that data savings that did in school site, so.
I asked if I was allowed to tell. And I was
So,
told yes.
there you go. Yeah.
Public record.
Done by the same group that did the site,
You shall.
but,
Hey, maybe something, else. This is my original question, I can just so I understand it, with, like, that capital project to do the rec center, we got a lot of funds to do that,
We're talking about direction or?
our rec center. So, can you use money inside of that to do demo work, or is demo looked at?
Well, it's not in our civil record.
That's what I'm asking. You had to demo the old 911 building. Did we pay for that out of that project, or is it paid for out of the county budget? Demo is like. some kind
Well,
of
we
like-
actually sold that, so we actually sold that building, so we really didn't have any expense in
We
that.
made some money on that, didn't we? A little bit.
Mhm.
I say we sell that, thing building on GovDeals.
Oh.
You probably could see, if we demo that, they park it for the rec center. You could use that money, but you've got to realize, until we price that building out and all the
We don't know
other
what we got.
components, we'd need to look to see if there were funds there to do
I
it.
just trying to understand that, like at work, you can't, you know, that would be an expense, you can't use a project fund to pay for the county separate to make sure you
Well,
do that, but I didn't know if it was the same in the county or not.
It could,
we had some funds left over and said the scope of work was to improve the parking area. We could probably put in a request to change, to, expand the scope of work for parking to include. I would bet.
We're anticipating spending, I think, all that money, aren't we?
yeah.
And then
I'm sure they won't be.
Tomorrow we do bids and we'll know we'll have a good idea of where we're hanging on those funds.
And we still not spent our $500,000 match. Is that in this year's budget?
We're just keeping that till last.
But is that in this budget?
Probably will not be until next year because
Okay.
they're not projecting that to open till next fall, right, Alan?
That's correct. We'll be.
And so what you'll do, and what we'll do is we'll pull the grant, the Cardiff grant in, and we'll have to pull our match in this. We've known all along that match from the time you committed that 2 or 3 years ago is gonna have to come out of the back.
We have, that's,
And that's why we've been putting it in. You know, my dream was that we wouldn't have to use that, but we probably would.
I mean, we're obligated to them.
Well, we could choose, that's why you wanna leave the Cardiff grant to last. For example, if the
Oh.
4.7 million
Covered it.
Covered it. then I would personally forego the $500,000 grant to save our 500,000. Because that 500,000 could buy equipment to go in the gym
Without restrictions.
without restrictions,
And
right,
grant follow-up.
right.
So if
See,
we came in 500,000 under budget, it's potentially that we wouldn't want to jump through the hoops of the part of grant. We'd still use our 500,000 match,
Maybe
but we
more.
wouldn't use,
Is part of it dollar for dollar, so if we only use part of it, we'd only have.
that's right. I think that if we use 300, if we matched our 500, I think they match it dollar for dollar is what I was researching.
So the million cost the full 500,000.
Yeah. But then there's a flip side, and I know as working in that project is, hey, you got 500,000 matched, that's a pretty good little sweet deal to get you the extra bells and whistles, but I look at my poor finance staff and they're like, I'm gonna be married to this Partic grant for about 10 years, yeah,
Part of grants are a beast,
yeah.
What makes them so bad, Mavis?
just the paperwork and the requirements. It's kind of like that CDBG grant we do. Yeah, the girls have found out that there is no free money. I keep saying that, but they have found out there's no free money. The paperwork and the audit is terrible on those. And I mean, it's just so particular, like there's no variation. You have to do it exactly the way they say. And then they can come out and inspect this project and say, well, this isn't what you wrote in the grant application, or this is not what we approved. Because see, when we decided not to build it down there and to build it up here, Lloyd and Alan had to go get the guy to come up here and he had to approve us to change that for the Carter grant. Because they're just so particular. It's,
Paperwork.
it's,
Prove it.
those are two of the worst grants I've ever worked on in my life. But
Mavis, do you need anything else from the board?
Any decisions y'all got, as I think that's what we saying, if you wanna wait and let's do a follow-up meeting, is that something we need to schedule right now, since I think you got all this information day one, and you kinda gotta drink it in and think.
well, I'm gonna have to give a report to them back on, I mean, as soon as I change the numbers, I'll send it out to you. Come up with the 1.5 CPI with the 1.5 increase for all
And that's,
agencies.
that's kind of my vision, but if I'm the only one that has that vision, there's no reason for y'all to jump through all the hoops. I mean,
I mean, what does everybody?
Well, let me ask you this. We're all internal agencies happy at the end of the day with what y'all have proposed?
I think they are.
I think they are, and I think
They've
morale,
always come in under budget.
yeah, I think morale is good with that. I think they're very happy for what this board's given them over the last couple of years. They've got, the ability to do a compressed schedule when a department head approves. They've, got put on the pay plan, which is meaning that they have a pay plan to progress through their job title. They're very happy with the 37.5 hour work benefit that you gave them. So their morale, I feel like, is in a good place, and I see.
And I
my
think
staff here,
we've,
their family time on that is much.
One thing that I'd like to look at, since you've answered that, to compare this with what Brandon's requested, and I'd like to see a 2% increase in reports. And see what that looks like. And not and take the 1.5% of internal agencies out of the mix.
but there's 2% employees and no increase.
I got the 2%.
Steady with all the outside agencies. And 2%.
For
Cool.
internal people.
Internal agencies request. If they're happy, that's why I said, if they're okay, maybe not happy, but.
They're okay, I think they're okay. There's only one department I think that might have had a little bit of heartburn about not having any additional staff, but like he said, we compensated with a little bit more contract labor for right now because their situation's gonna change greatly next year, so I think we needed to wait to see what those changes look like. But other than that, I think everybody was
Yeah.
good, and we've made great strides this year in trying to, like, be aggressive, like, go ahead and get DSS taken care of, get the health department building taken care of. So I think those people are very appreciative that we took the initiative to, try to get those things done.
Danny's been killing it up there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't know how can we put him in for a full year?
But Jeff, what do you want me to do for outside agencies, if we do internal agencies?
Not outside agencies,
I'm
leave the outside agencies alone.
Leave them
He's up
alone.
there sliding like
inside
crazy.
Not 2% for the agency, a 2% employee.
Right, right.
2% CPI.
Yeah, and they, and nothing
So
on,
she figured it on 2%,
Yeah.
you're saying cut it.
well, he said 1.5 and 1.5.
I was just looking. I don't wanna do more for outside agencies than we do for our people.
No, I'm fine with
That's
outside
the
agencies.
Those are heartburn with the
Y'all have
state.
budgets too.
DSS,
That y'all don't have.
They can take the curtains down. They got their change out. They
I
have-
honestly didn't think outside agencies' requests were bad at all. I mean, the only one that was really up there was Malin, and that's kind of because we've not been funding
You're
them
exactly right.
at the same level as we did, and we're backfilling that with Article 44 versus tax dollars, which I think is the best way to go. And
I thought they're reasonable too, but you can't go backwards either, like I mean, you can, but that's easier said. than
well,
done.
with Malin, we have gone back and forth in the past on capital. Some years we funded capital, some years we've not funded capital for them. And we're not tied to Malin operational the way we are the schools. Malin, you can vary their funding if you want to. But I
The
think.
general statute don't tie us too hard.
No, but the thing about it is we're tied to them with the other two counties.
Mhm.
And personally, I feel like it hurts us when we don't do more equal funding. We used to always do equal funding with Malin. We all signed an agreement, all three counties, and we all did equal funding. And in the past few years, we've gotten away from that, but I think it kind of hurts us with our neighbors if we don't.
And another thing, just to kind of
Step
expand
up.
on that, so let's say you do fund them equal this year, and then we're coming up, we might need 40,000-50,000. We can go to the table and say, hey, you know, we funded you equal, you know, when we got it, we'll fund you, but now this year, we're gonna need to roll back on it a little bit.
Yeah.
We're kind of buying some stock for when we are on the lean time, because, you know, if you kind of look like you're laying around that average of the three counties, you're gonna be kind of good, but if we're constantly under, eventually somebody's gonna probably call the old stuff that the other counties are gonna give us. a
Well,
hard
no,
time on.
you got aging buildings, I mean, that's, a fact. And there's maintenance on the aging building, and there's three campuses, so you got to keep that up, and if you don't maintain what you have, it's gonna cost you a lot more down the line, so I don't have a problem
That's,
And you think about, you know,
with the request.
it's Article 44 money too, so it's
Right.
allocated anyway.
We're making up the difference with
have
Article
to put it
44. So
somewhere.
basically, we're funding them the same as we did last year as far as tax dollars. I made up the extra out of Article 44.
And they don't care, they'll be happy to get.
Yeah,
They
all that
don't,
was just-
no, it doesn't matter to them where it comes from. I just have to.
I mean, and we've done that with EDC, there's years we did.
Well, see, that's
And
a prime
that's
example.
aside next
You know,
year.
I'll go to their board and say, hey, we're trying to roll Article 44 around, y'all good with me holding it at sustainable level, but not additional. And they're always good with it, because we've kind of built some stock on that.
Maybe somebody ask you one more question. And inspections. Okay, do you figure into the budget what we're paying out in contract labor?
Let me look and see for sure what I put on contract labor, but I'm sure I did.
I've added up what I was seeing so far. For Mr. Phillips, we paid out $10,642 there, about with some change in travel of $1,775. And the rest of the contract labor comes to about $2,800. Reading the numbers, right?
I put 15,000 in there for next year.
You think that'll cover it?
I don't know. I know there's a lot of new building projects
Yeah.
coming on. I just don't always personally know which ones are level 3 and which ones are not.
I
So,
think Andy Brewer will be a probationary group.
Let's see, and I'll address that. He's gonna be a probationary 3, but he's only 50% that and 50% fire. So even though he's a 3, is he gonna be able to do all 3 inspections that the work requires?
I think he'll take some of the heat off of it, to where, right now, Allison Kidd, so let me tell you kind of how my layout is on there. I got 3 level 3s contracted in the county. I've got Allison Kidd from Avery. She comes and says, Alan, I'll get you out of the jam. You're in a jam, but I'm swamped in Avery. Yeah. She says, I'm in a jam myself. And then, I've got, Keenan, who, says, I can get you after 4, Alan. You know, I'll help you out after 4 o'clock. And then I got a gentleman by the name of Barry Vest, that's from Marion, that I just put on. So that's 3 level 3s. And Barry says, Fridays, I can sometimes do you some inspections during the day, and I'll cover all your fire. So,
So
between them,
he's gonna cover fire too.
he's got fire too. Yeah, Barry's been good on fire. So I got Paul Buchanan and Barry. Barry's probably been taking the big load of fire because Paul seems to be busy.
All of our inspections get done on time.
Yeah, our general statute is they have I think we got 2 days or something to get them, but we like to get them ready the day of. You got a concrete pour, what the inspections is communicating is saying, hey, if you have your pour ready the day before, we'll get, if it's Keenan to be out there that evening, we'll get Keenan. The other part of that would be, you know, if Andy can come out and virtually do it and Keenan can look at it, then we can do that. But now when Andy becomes a level 3 probationary and you got concrete pouring today, he can pop out there and get it and then do fire. You know, he can only do the level 3 stuff right there, take all the level 2, because Dylan will be level 2 this summer on all trades. And so level 1 and level 2, all residential, Dylan can do. So I do feel like that's gonna lighten up, and I think you're gonna see a little bit better run on that.
How long is Avery taking on getting their inspections done?
Allison, for plan review, has told me she's gonna do plan review for me. She said for me to give it to her 30 days in advance.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that part?
Now, on her county, she's prioritizing now,
Airplane reviews not taking 30.
our plan review goes, typically if we get a week on it, I can give it to Barry, Keenan, and one of them 2 will have it. Fire reviews, they seem to be getting them in the week usually. But now, if I use Allison and Paul, they're required a big amount of time on that, which understandable. They're prioritizing their main pay first. But yeah, that's something, I think by the end of summer, we'll have a good piece on what that is. About October, we should kind of know what inspections looks like, because by then Andy will be up in level 3 probationary in most of his trades. And Dylan will be level 2, and then we'll kind of gather some feedback, but we've not missed the general statutory time yet. Now, it's not been convenient, but it's not missed. We've had to schedule sometimes in 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock
Is
stuff.
Chris
Yeah.
okay?
Chris is okay at the moment. Chris Gentry, he's been focusing more on his house not burning down here lately, so he's had another thing on his table, so. He's throwing it all in.
Mulch, it's a little,
Yeah.
mulch.
That's
That's some of it.
Yeah.
And not a little off the subject, tag office.
So tag office, we are still waiting for construction to start at the tag office. I think that at some point Van's gonna shoot a contract over, and I told Van I was gonna give that to, Ford to review. And of course, we wanted to look at that through our auditor because it's a 10-year contract. So a 10-year contract, if it's amortized, you know, it's got amortization There you go. If it's showing that he built something for us, and then it takes out the monthly payments on that, you know, that would have went towards his expense on it. The audit allows for you to do a lease outside of the normal local government requirements. So we reached out on that with Thor and Misty to say, is it something we can do? And as far as that 10-year lease agreement goes, we can do it. But at the end of the day, this board will have to pass that, you know, because it's something that ties up the funds.
That's Cameron Davis, 10 years for release.
That is, that is also in the budget. And I'm sure you saw her departments up, because we've had to estimate as well as what we think the operational cost of the new sheriff's department. We've also had to look at the size of that building where we're gonna be moving to, and look at the utilities and the increased cost there to operate that building versus where we are.
The utilities come out separate.
Mhm.
We'll have our own water tap and our own electrical.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we talked with Van about all that, and we've got all that, and the lease is coming in at $27,830 a year, which is actually a little better than I thought they would come in at, because we were comparing it to the soil and water lease and everything. So actually, and if we've got that, we'll see how he writes that up, but
Plus they're doing, it's not a new build, but it's a new remodel.
it's a complete, remodel.
That $2,300 a month don't count that amortization out of like whatever that is.
Yeah, that's kind of how that's
Supposed to be put in
determined.
there.
You take
So-
that lease out and then you pay the.
So if you let your lease early.
Yeah, so let's say he paid, $200,000, that ain't what he paid, but just for example's sake, he paid $200,000 to upfit that building, and we wanted to run that over a 10-year lease, that's $2,000 a month. And so that's how that scale shows out.
Yeah, and I think the cost on this is about 280,000, it's 278.
Can we move, so is it possible to move soil and water to Bowman, or is that like,
Could be, I mean, if the board votes and space is available, which, you know, I think we would,
So water used to be electrical.
there might be a lease on that, I don't know. That I would probably call it.
And it's a co-lease, and we're not paying anything on it, okay? We pay it, the federal government sends me back almost 90% of it. They send me all back except what, about $4,000, and then soil and water, that piece from the state pays us that difference. So it's a shared lease between federal and state, but we're the local, so the money funnels through me. I pay Van every month for that lease. So
How much is that?
it's about 40-some thousand a year, 43,000 or something.
That's a whole building.
You can make money off that if you charge solar police.
could you do that?
So that-
I
Probably.
mean, I think if we have that huge building, you're gonna have a huge operational expense, and it's gonna be massive. I mean, roof, like all,
That's what concerns me.
yeah, all that stuff. I think the more buildings we can get rid of, the
Solar
better.
water?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, if the board,
I
whatever.
mean, they're
the board
paying
votes on
anyway.
that,
I mean, they're gonna.
Yeah,
They
and
were
say,
interested in.
but now we need to look at that with the
Federal
county
and state,
insurance,
you
you know, and say if that outside agency, I want to make sure the insurance risk pool, if I put it in the same building as the county stuff, I do worry a little bit about insurance on that.
There's a big issue when we become a
It used to be an
leaseholder versus, yes, it
Solar water
is.
was.
Oh, yeah, that's,
True,
They were downstairs in that big room with the 4-H used.
that's
That's
true.
when Dad was the solar water district technician.
So, yeah, see, now, there's potential there.
Mhm.
I mean, y'all as a board say, hey.
And they
do
pay,
that.
the
We'll-
federal and
we
state
work with
government
you.
pay so much per square foot, that's how that works. So it would depend on, the we not get that much depending on how much square footage we need.
Pretty big space they got out.
And I don't think they really need all that stuff up there.
yeah,
It's pretty utilized to be doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right over the office is used and there's
like
a
an
little
odd place, that's.
kitchen break room area and that, yes.
My classroom.
Anything else we've not talked about?
Got a big old classroom over there.
Yeah, soil and water can be in
I
there.
didn't sleep on all of it.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think y'all need I think y'all have given us some good.
I mean, the only thing we really have to figure out is the school situation, and that sounds like you guys are wanting to talk to them about the build projects and where their funding is for that, and to see how much we're gonna be obligated. We missed one thing, Alan. At the last minute today, well, actually, I think she emailed it out 2 days ago, but Glenda in HR is still wanting to put back on the table
Oh, yeah.
another benefit for the employees, and this one is dental. We do not have dental at this point, never have had dental. She's worked on this. I've not talked to her about it. She's saying it would cost the county about $45,000 per year.
So yeah, just, I talked to her briefly a little bit about that. So as HR, we was going over what they're asked for, and Glenda in HR said, you know, for me to, compete against other businesses, the county doesn't offer dental. We offer health, vision. We don't.
Been pleased to see if there's an interest.
So she said she has, and she says that's the number one thing but I have not told the employees.
Well, they're gonna give it to them.
Yeah.
But can the county,
Yeah, so.
Does that count for board members? $1,000.
Yeah, we put the board members on the box.
Does the county don't have a cafeteria plan?
No, we have state health insurance. And if you're local government, it's not the same as what you're offered as a state
So you all
employee.
get, yeah, under your,
You have more of a cafeteria type plan.
yeah.
Yeah, it's optional. where you
I
put it in
think I'd
yourself.
rather give employees an FSA, like say you get so much per FSA, I'd take $40,000 and divide it by how many employees we have. Put that in an FSA account for them to use, say.
That has a lot of, ramifications as far as the county improving that they
I've always
spend
wanted
it
to
for
I
that.
always want to do illegal stuff.
Okay,
We do a debit card that only allows the IRS approved.
certain,
Yeah, I mean, everybody does that. That's one thing, I've not known a darn thing y'all talked about all night, but you're actually talking about something I do. And I would say, how many employees does the county have?
We're figuring about 120 on the dental
Full-time.
benefits, yeah.
So if you do, what is that, 40,000, if you took that 40,000 by 120,
I got you here.
y'all have much turnover? Yeah, so just keep in mind with the FSA,
$350.
$333 in here.
What is-
Cleaning.
Would y'all rather have cost of living or?
you could give them that money and instead of dental insurance, and then they can obviously take additional money out of the check, which saves you guys on FICA and SUPA and all that other stuff that I worry about, but it saves the county and the employee money.
Well, my suggestion to Alan was today, because this came in kind of last minute, and you've not researched it or studied it, and I pretty much have the budget tied down. Benefits are a large portion of the cost of a full-time employee. I mean, we're talking about $11,000 a year in benefits. Probably close to $11,000, because we have short-term, long-term disability, we have life insurance.
Y'all got made over here. I need to move from the state to the county.
Well, I'm gonna do that part-time through that too. I think we need to do that. So Yancey County, Avery County, all of those are eligible for, they all get benefits, just like a normal employee. They
Do
get.
you know what their budget is in year
I don't
two?
know, but
They're back,
we're
they're
talking
in it.
about 5 people.
Oh, you mean just for the board?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm thinking that, I'm saying we should offer that to the board members. I mean, somebody like Jeff, who's self-employed, that could be a nice benefit.
But I'm Medicare now.
We do all that. But is it future boards, they all.
We got
Well, and you know, our boards have been bad to deny any kind of pay raises that we ask every year. So, I mean, the benefits, some type of little way to do that for board members, it would be great. We're always for that.
Right.
It's just really hard for y'all to vote yourselves.
Hell, it ain't hard for me to. I don't ever.
So you going off, you can be a vote really second.
I won't be taking one advantage of it, but it will help other people.
Yeah.
It'll help other people.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a small amount for a long.
My suggestion though, on the dental insurance is, we need to see what our medical insurance premiums are gonna be with the state in January, December, January. You know, if we see a good savings there, we might have the money to do another benefit. And that would give Alan some time to research what the best product would be, whether it's something like Lee's suggesting, and I didn't know they made a debit card for that now, that's news on to me, so I'm not the benefit guru, I can just tell you what we have now and what it costs, but maybe we could look at something, and if you start something in January, then that, if it's pre-tax especially, that gets you in that calendar year from January to December, because payroll has, you know, those are benefits that are pre-tax, has to be balanced and pulled out and make sure it gets right on your W-2 and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of things that go with adding another benefit. You have to figure out the payroll aspect, the software aspect, and how we're gonna integrate it easily for all the employees. So I think it's something that, this is a little bit, something you have to spend some time working on.
Would y'all rather have one, cost of living, or would y'all rather have the FSO, like an
No,
FSO?
I'd rather have cost of living, and I think if you pull the employee, they're gonna pay you the same thing.
I agree with that.
And you could use that cost of living to take out a, like, savings account or
Right,
daycare.
buy your own.
My experience with healthcare, with the dental, ours is with the school, and it's not, I don't care, I've never carried it, you carry it, I don't think it's very.
I do because the kids, but now I was told very specifically that if you are not gonna use every aspect of this, do not get it because it's not worth it. I mean, they make that clear when you sign up for it.
They don't offer it to local government. If it's a local government on that program, we only get the health insurance people. Now, that's not to say when Aetna comes in, the state may have negotiated a different,
Ours is.
Plan, I don't know.
It's through, who does our, who manages those?
Our cafeteria?
Yeah.
It used to be,
Yeah, Mark Thurman, yeah, that's who it is.
Aetna's under a tremendous amount of pressure to come in under y'all's current rate with very similar benefits. I don't know if they're doing it all. They are.
well, surely to gosh, the state's already negotiated that, or why would they have signed a contract with them? You don't think they have?
I don't know.
I kind of feel like I wouldn't have signed a contract if I didn't know I couldn't have a savings, but again, in politics.
Yeah. I think that was more about Blue Cross thought they never leave.
Yeah.
It's going to negotiate and stalemate, and
Yeah,
they had to prove the form.
maybe right. We may not be, how long did they sign that contract for, do you know?
No less than 3 years, I'm sure. I don't know,
So,
but I'm sure.
anyway, whenever the contract's up, who knows, we could be back with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
I trust Paul, he's a good controller too. He's always done good by me.
All right. Maybe we're.
I like some Paul Will, I think he's a great guy. I just spend my mouth on.
So when are we gonna meet again to discuss this?
Monday after the commissioner meeting.
We have.
No, you gotta do the
3 to 5.
Hard to be here after the commissioners meeting.
So 3 to 5.
That'll be the sixth.
Well, there is a
Or-
potential, Christie said after the school
After the
meeting, you
school
might wanna do a budget.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to
That's
wait
all.
till after, because the school is the big one.
Let's do that.
Yeah, that's.
You're
no,
gonna
we
have
don't
to
need
wait
to-
till after.
We won't have anything to talk about. Oh, shit. I mean, we're not gonna know anymore than we know right now. Until after we meet in the schools.
Right,
That's on Thursday.
that's
And we
on
meet with them
Tuesday.
6. So we might be sweet by 9 on the budget.
But we're scheduled to do the 14th if necessary.
Yeah.
It's not big enough to keep them down.
It's Tuesday night. Let's see time, baby. Might get budget made by 9.
All right, so
That's my
when,
poker night.
wait. I give that.
Sorry.
Give us a little.
Yeah. Let's say an hour and a half for the school meeting, start at 6, that get you out by 8, and then if you start at 8, go to 10.
Are you?
Get it open, but no, you can't make that decision, you gotta mull over the school stuff. Like if they go over their budget numbers, then Mavis and me and finance, y'all, we all need to kind of crunch them numbers
I
and
think
figure
we
it through.
can have time for.
So we'd need maybe Thursday or the following Monday or Tuesday.
We had
Alright, that's
penciled,
on the schedule, right?
yeah, we penciled something in the 14th.
There you go.
We also penciled in the 6th, 3 to 5 before your meeting. Well, I don't think that's gonna be wasting your time.
Yeah.
So the next one we penciled in was the 14th at 3 o'clock.
Yep, at 3 o'clock, go to.
Because May 21st, the next week, we have to do board presentation. In other words, he's got to present a budget to you with the budget message.
Their second meeting.
And that's the second meeting of the month.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
3
14.
o'clock.
Another.
14th.
By the board, so you get three.
I just have to,
I had the 6th year,
I just have to leave work.
regular DSS, regular commissioner meeting. I have standard, 6 o'clock here with the school board. Yes, and then May the 21st, 6 o'clock,
14th.
regular meeting.
At 3 o'clock.
On the 14th.
Okay, Taylor, can you type all that up and email it tomorrow so that
I've got it.
Any Jennings will be on things.
The 14th, it'll have to be on your list that I
Put
sent,
it in one conducive.
What time?
and I'll include that, the pretty cool, yeah.
So the
Let them know
6th,
their
7th,
itinerary.
I'll update your agenda.
Thank you.
I may not be.
Retirement account, second, that's something on there.
Darla's son, doctor.
Slightly better.
All right, any more discussion?
Need a motion to adjourn?
There's a second.
Oh, I need a motion.
Oh, I
Yeah, I motion. Stephen, Jeff.
All in favor, everybody?
I think it's the last budget meeting we've had in a while.